Richard, the richest man in the city, went undercover with his mother, pretending to be poor just to find a loyal wife. But what happened next was unimaginable. Hello, our dear viewers. Before the story begins, please don't forget to subscribe and like this video. And let us know in the comments, the country, where you're watching from. Richard fell to his knees so fast the sound echoed through the living room. His hands shook as he reached for Evelyn's arm, his voice breaking. Evelyn, please. Don't leave me like this. 4 years, Evelyn? 4 years of building a future together. You know I'm still growing my business. I'm already a millionaire, but I'm not a billionaire yet. I'm fighting every day to scale and expand. If I take $800,000 just to fund a vacation to Dubai and Miami, just to impress people, it could ruin everything I've worked for. His voice trembled as tears rolled down his cheeks. I'm trying to build my dream, a future where I could give you $5 million without even thinking. A life where you'll never have to worry about anything again. Just give me time. Please stay. Evelyn froze for a moment, then burst into loud, mocking laughter. She pulled her hand away sharply. Richard, even your dream isn't enough to buy me a private jet that will fly me around the world and make me feel like a queen, she said with a smirk. She flipped her hair dramatically. Come on, $800,000 is nothing for a real man. And you're telling me you can't afford that? I'm sorry, but I'm a big-class woman. I don't do budget lifestyle, and I don't do waiting seasons. Richard stared at her, devastated. Evelyn, please. She rolled her eyes. Dreams don't pay for luxury, baby. I'm done. Juliet, Richard's junior sister, had been standing quietly behind the staircase, watching everything unfold. She couldn't hold the anger boiling inside her anymore. With bold steps and eyes blazing with fury, she marched forward, her voice sharp and steady. Evelyn, you're ungrateful, she burst out. After everything my brother has done for you, this is how you repay him? Just because he can't give you $800,000 for a vacation? You are heartless. Evelyn let out a sarcastic laugh, tossing her hair and smiling with arrogance before her face turned serious and cold. Thank God you're a woman, Evelyn replied mockingly. When you get married, and your husband can't fund your lifestyle, then you'll understand exactly what I'm going through. Juliet lifted her chin confidently, not intimidated for a second. Listen, even me, I would never treat my man like this, she said firmly. Because I'm not shameless like you. A real woman supports her man. She doesn't drain him and walk away when things get tough. And believe me, Evelyn, you will regret this, I bet you. I will personally deal with you. Evelyn's smile faded, her pride wounded, but she turned sharply and dragged her suitcase toward the door. Goodbye, Richard, Evelyn hissed, dragging her suitcase toward the exit. Richard tried to reach for her, still kneeling, his voice shaking. Evelyn, please. He grabbed her wrist weakly, but she yanked it away without hesitation. She opened the door, looked back with a cold smile, then slammed it behind her. The loud bang echoed through the house like thunder. Richard remained frozen on his knees, tears streaming down his face, his heart breaking piece by piece. He stared at the closed door, unable to believe the woman he planned to marry walked away without a second thought. Juliet rushed to him and knelt beside him, placing her hand gently on his shoulder. Brother, don't bother yourself about her, she said softly but firmly. You should be thanking God she left. She would have ruined your financial life and destroyed everything you worked for. At that moment, Agnes, Richard and Juliet's mother, stepped out from the hallway where she had been watching in silence. She walked toward them slowly, her face calm but full of deep wisdom. Yes, Richard, she said gently. Wipe your tears. Thank God she left. From the very first day I met her, I knew Evelyn was never the kind of woman who could stand with you forever. I know my son, and seeing you with her, I already knew it wouldn't last. Juliet helped lift Richard up from the floor. The three of them sat together on the couch, painful silence filling the room. The three of them sat in the parlor, the room thick with silence. Richard's face was streaked with tears, still raw from the heartbreak Evelyn had left behind. He stared at the floor, his chest heavy with the weight of disappointment and lost love. Agnes, his mother, studied him with a mix of concern and determination. She had seen this pattern before, and it was clear to her that something had to be done. Richard, she began softly but firmly, this is the fourth heartbreak you've suffered in just the past 2 years. Every time you try to build a relationship that could lead to marriage, it ends the same way. Something is clearly wrong somewhere. She shook her head gently, sighing. And I've realized, it's because you're a millionaire's son. Most of the women you meet are only after your money. No one loves you for who you are. They just want your wealth. Richard lowered his head, the sting of truth sinking deep. Agnes leaned closer, her voice steady, sharp with wisdom. Here's my plan. You and we will move to a small town, a quiet village. You will disguise yourself as someone poor. Maybe even act as if you can't work. And I'll push you around in a wheelchair. Juliet will stay in the city, running the company and keeping everything under control. We'll do this until the right, respectful woman comes into your life, someone who truly loves you, not your money. Juliet's eyes sparkled with excitement. Mom, I love this plan. You are full of wisdom. Don't worry about the company. I'll keep it running while you both are gone, and I'll make sure everything goes smoothly. Richard wiped his face, hope flickering through the tears. Mom, you really think this will work? Agnes smiled confidently. Yes, son. If it's going to work, we start now. No more waiting. This is the only way to protect you and your future. The three exchanged determined glances, the weight of heartbreak slowly shifting to a spark of hope. Juliet reached out and held Richard's hand, assuring him silently that he wasn't alone. Finally, Richard lifted his head and sat back, a faint but genuine smile forming. The plan was set, their mission clear, and for the first time since Evelyn left, he felt a small light of hope in his heart. A few weeks later, the day of departure finally arrived. The compound was quiet, carrying the weight of what was about to happen. Richard moved across the driveway, loading the bags into the car one by one. He folded the wheelchair, lifted it carefully, and pushed it into the back seat, then paused with a deep breath, his hand resting on the car door for a moment. Agnes stood beside Juliet at the entrance, watching him closely. She turned toward Juliet. Please take care of the company while we're gone. We don't know how long this journey will take, but everything rests in your hands now. Juliet nodded confidently. Yes, Ma. I'll handle everything. I promise you, nothing will go wrong. She stepped forward and touched Richard's arm gently. Brother, I wish you good luck. And I pray you find the right one. I believe you'll return stronger than ever. Don't give up. Richard gave her a faint smile. Thank you, Juliet. Take care of yourself and take care of the empire. I'm trusting you with everything. Don't let our father's legacy fall. Juliet blinked quickly, trying not to cry. I won't fail you. I swear. Agnes placed a hand on Richard's shoulder. Richard, let's go before the day gets dark. It's time. Richard opened the back door and helped Agnes into the seat, adjusting her carefully. He looked back at Juliet again, his eyes heavy. They stared at each other silently, saying more through their expressions than words could. Juliet raised her hand slowly. I'll miss you both, she whispered. Agnes leaned toward the window, smiling warmly. We'll miss you too. Be strong, Juliet. Richard entered the car and closed the door. The engine started, humming softly. The car moved toward the gate, rolling forward. Juliet stood still, watching until it disappeared down the road. The gate closed. Juliet wiped her tears, inhaled deeply, and turned back toward the mansion, ready for the battle ahead. The journey to a new life had officially begun. After hours on the road, Richard parked the car in front of a small, worn-down compound in a quiet local town. People sat on porches talking. A group of kids rode bicycles across the dusty street, and a dog barked somewhere behind a fence. Everything looked simple, far from the luxury Richard grew up in. Richard stepped out slowly, looking around with discomfort. Mom, are you sure this is the place? Agnes nodded calmly. Yes, son. This is exactly where we need to be. A tall man in his late 50s walked toward them with a friendly smile. It was the landlord, Matthew. His voice was warm as he approached. Welcome, he said. You must be Mrs. Agnes and Richard. I'm glad you both made it safely. Thank you, Agnes replied softly. We truly appreciate your help. Matthew lowered his voice just slightly. And don't worry about anything. I understand the plan completely. By God's grace, everything will work out. Sometimes the biggest blessings come from the smallest places. Agnes smiled. Amen. Thank you so much, Matthew. Matthew led them to a tiny old room at the far corner of the compound. He unlocked the door and pushed it open. The room was small with cracked walls, a broken fan, and a thin mattress. Richard's face fell instantly. Mom, seriously? This place looks like it's falling apart. How can we stay here? Agnes squeezed his hand gently. Son, it's only for a short while. If this is what it takes to find a real woman who will love you, then let's do it once and for all. Be patient. Richard exhaled heavily. All right. For you, Mom, I'll try. Matthew handed over the key. I'll let you settle in. If you need anything, my house is just across the street. He walked away slowly, but something flickered in his eyes. Curiosity, interest, something quietly growing about their secret. Richard and Agnes stood silently, then began carrying their belongings inside. They unpacked the bags and leaned the folded wheelchair against the wall. By morning, the driver would take the car away so no sign of wealth remained. But what Richard and Agnes didn't know was that Matthew already had his own secret plan the moment they stepped into the compound. As soon as he handed them the key and closed the gate behind him, he hurried back home, excitement burning in his eyes. Inside his small living room, his wife Linda was washing dishes, and their daughter Hannah sat on the floor sorting fruits into a basket. The moment Matthew walked in, Linda looked up. "You're back early," she said. "Did they arrive?" Matthew grinned. "Yes, they're here. And Linda, this is our chance, our real chance." Hannah looked up, curious. "Chance? What do you mean, Dad?" Matthew leaned forward, voice low. "Those two, the mother and her son, they're rich, very rich. They came here pretending to be poor, but they're hiding something big. If we play this right, Hannah, you could be the girl who wins his heart." Linda gasped softly. "Are you sure?" Matthew nodded. "Completely. And the plan is simple. Starting next week, you'll start hawking fruits around their compound. Go to their door, sell to them, talk to them, and slowly win their trust. But never reveal that you are my daughter. Not even by mistake." Hannah's eyes widened. "Next week? Why not now?" Matthew smiled. "We give them a little time to settle in. Let them think they are alone. After 1 week, you begin. Be gentle, be kind, give them fruit for free, and make them see your good heart. That boy looks broken. Winning his trust is the key." Linda wiped her hands and nodded. "Hannah, listen to your father. Be smart, be patient. This could finally change our lives." Hannah swallowed hard, determination lighting up her face. "I'll do it. I'll make sure they notice me. But I won't reveal who I am." Matthew leaned back with a satisfied smile. "Good. Remember, timing is everything. We start next week, and if you succeed, everything will change." The three stood in silence, minds alive with plans. Outside, the town remained unaware, yet the first moves of a carefully crafted plan had begun, quietly shaping their futures forever. The next morning, Agnes and Richard stepped outside. Richard sat in the wheelchair, dressed in rough, worn clothes, while Agnes pushed him slowly along the dusty streets of the market. Their clothes were tattered, their shoes scuffed. They moved past stalls and vendors, approaching anyone who passed by. "Please, sir. Madam. Anything to help us?" Agnes pleaded. Some tossed coins, some shook their heads, walking away without a word. The world felt harsh and unwelcoming, but neither of them said a word, keeping their heads low. After a long, exhausting walk, they finally reached the front of a small shaded stall selling fried snacks and drinks. They paused, hoping to rest their legs and catch their breath. But the owner of the stall, a young woman with a fiery gaze, stormed toward them. "Hey, get out of front of my stall. You can't just stand here." Agnes tried to explain gently. "We're just resting a little, ma'am. We'll leave soon, I promise." The woman's face twisted in anger. "I don't care what your excuse is. Move!" Richard shifted uncomfortably in the wheelchair, trying to remain polite. But the woman's patience was gone. In a swift motion, she grabbed a bowl of water from her stall and poured it over both of them, soaking their rough clothes. She yanked the wheelchair away from the shade, shoving it a few feet down the dusty path. Agnes wiped water from her face, glaring at the young woman. Why must people be so cruel? Richard stayed silent, gripping the wheelchair tightly, his pride wounded. But he didn't speak, knowing every moment of hardship was part of their plan. The scene grew tense as the market crowd watched the chaos unfold. Just then, a young lady from the shop beside the snack stall stepped out quickly, her expression full of shock and anger. "Hey!" she shouted at the rude stall owner. "Stop that right now!" The angry woman turned sharply. "Stop what? How can you treat people like this?" the young lady demanded. "Even if they're struggling, they still deserve respect." The angry woman scoffed loudly. "Respect for who? Look at them. People like this don't deserve pity. All they do is beg around. They're just lazy." The rude woman rolled her eyes, muttering angrily as she walked back to her stall. Rebecca turned to Agnes and Richard, her tone softening. "Please, come and rest under my shade. You shouldn't be standing here like this, especially after what just happened." Agnes hesitated, then nodded slowly. She pushed Richard's wheelchair forward and moved under Rebecca's shop shade. It was a small wooden structure with a bench, but to them, it felt like safety. "Thank you," Agnes whispered, breath trembling. "God bless you for helping us." Rebecca stepped closer, concerned. "Do you need anything? Water?" Maybe something small to eat? You both look tired. Agnes quickly shook her head. No, Rebecca. Allowing us to sit here is already more than enough. We don't want to bother you. Rebecca smiled gently. You're not bothering me. Kindness costs nothing. Without waiting for another word, Rebecca went inside her shop. Moments later, she returned holding 2 cold bottles of water. She opened them and handed one to Agnes and one to Richard. Please take this, Rebecca said softly. Just drink. It might help you calm down. Agnes accepted the bottle with shaking hands. Thank you, Rebecca. May God reward you for your kindness. Richard lifted his bottle, nodding weakly. Thank you. Rebecca pulled a chair closer and sat with them. Sometimes, she said quietly, the world just needs someone willing to care. And for a moment, the busy market fell silent around them. Agnes wiped the remaining water from Richard's face and looked up at Rebecca with gentle eyes. Thank you, my dear. Your kindness means more than you know. People like you are rare. Richard nodded weakly from the wheelchair. We are truly grateful. We didn't come to disturb anyone. We just needed a little rest. Thank you for standing up for us. Rebecca's expression softened even more. I'm sorry you had to go through that. I wish there were more I could do. If there's anything you ever need, anything I'm capable of doing, I will gladly help. Just ask. Agnes gently placed her hand on Rebecca's arm. What you did is already enough. We must keep moving. May God bless you, child. Rebecca stepped back, watching as Agnes gripped the wheelchair handles and slowly pushed Richard away, carefully navigating through the busy market road. People stared at them, some with curiosity, others with pity, but Rebecca's eyes followed them the longest. She stood there silently, her heart heavy. Something about them tugged at her soul, as if destiny had just brushed past her. Under her breath, she whispered, I hope life becomes kinder to you both. Agnes and Richard disappeared into the crowd, 2 strangers fighting for a chance to start again, while Rebecca remained standing, unable to shake the feeling that their paths would cross again. As Richard and Agnes got to their room, Agnes closed the wooden door gently behind them. The small space was quiet. Only the sound of their tired breathing filled the air. Richard sighed deeply and rested his hands on the wheelchair handles. Mom, he said softly, still thinking. I can't stop replaying what happened today. The way Rebecca defended us? People like her are rare. I've never seen that kind of kindness before. Do you think she might be the right person? Agnes placed the small bag they carried onto the old table and turned to face him. Richard, my son, I understand how you feel, she said gently, sitting beside him. What she did was beautiful, but don't rush your heart. Richard looked confused. Why do you say that? Agnes tapped his hand softly. Because one moment of goodness doesn't show a whole character. You must know someone deeply before you open your heart. We came here to find genuine love, not another mistake. Richard nodded slowly, breathing in deeply. You're right. I just felt something different today. Then let time reveal the truth, Agnes replied with a small smile. If Rebecca is meant to be part of our story, destiny will bring her closer. Richard looked toward the small window, hope flickering in his eyes. Maybe this journey is already working, he whispered. Agnes smiled. Let's wait and see. As Richard and Agnes continued their quiet conversation, a knock echoed on the door. Agnes walked over and opened it. Standing there was Hannah, holding a small tray of neatly arranged fruits. Good afternoon, Hannah said politely, her smile gentle. I sell fruits around this area. Some tenants here buy from me regularly, and I heard you are new. I wanted to introduce myself. Richard looked up from his wheelchair. Thank you. That's very thoughtful of you. Hannah glanced at him, her expression softening. If you ever need fruits, apples, oranges, bananas, I can deliver them to your door anytime. Just call me. Agnes nodded, smiling. Thank you, Hannah. That's very kind. Actually, could you sell some oranges for us? We'd also like to buy a few today. Hannah carefully measured a good amount of oranges, then paused and added a few extra into the basket. I added these so you can patronize me more, she said with a warm grin. Richard looked surprised. You didn't have to do that. Hannah shrugged lightly. I want to. Consider it a small gesture. Agnes handed her some money. We really appreciate it. You've been very kind today. Hannah gave a slight bow. Thank you. Anytime you need more, just call me. I'll bring it right to your door. Richard took the basket into his lap, smiling faintly. Mom, it feels like this place is already full of good people. Agnes watched Hannah leave and then looked at Richard thoughtfully. Kindness is one thing, my son, but we must remember, we don't yet know her completely. There's more behind every smile than what meets the eye. Little did Richard and Agnes know, Hannah and her father, Mr. Matthew, had already set a carefully hidden plan in motion, one that would quietly entangle them, testing their trust, patience, and every step they thought was safe, drawing them into a web they couldn't yet even imagine. Time moved quickly, and Agnes and Richard continued stopping by Rebecca's shop each time they passed through the market, always greeting her warmly and thanking her for her kindness. Yet, without knowing it, something unexpected was waiting, something that would change everything. Rebecca smiled as soon as she saw them. "Good afternoon," she greeted. "How are you doing today? I've been hoping to see you both." "We're trying," Agnes replied gently. "Thank you again for the help you showed us that day. Not many people would do what you did." Richard nodded in agreement. "We won't forget it. People like you are rare." Rebecca opened her mouth to respond, but suddenly the curtain at the entrance brushed aside. Another customer stepped into the shop. She picked up a few items casually, but when her eyes lifted toward Agnes and Richard, her expression changed instantly. She froze, staring intensely as if she had seen a ghost. "Wait," she whispered, moving a little closer. "Please forgive me for asking, but are you not Richard and Agnes, the millionaire owners of Golden Heights Empire?" Agnes's face tightened, and Richard immediately turned his face away. The woman gasped aloud. "Oh my God! I know I'm not mistaken. I've watched interviews of you both so many times. I know your faces anywhere. What happened? Why are you here looking like this?" Agnes forced a gentle, controlled smile. "Ma, you must be confusing us with someone else. We're not the people you think we are." "No," the woman insisted firmly. "I'm telling you, I know you. Something is wrong. Please tell me. What happened?" Agnes touched Richard's shoulder. "We really have to go now. Rebecca, thank you again for always being kind to us. We'll come around some other time." Rebecca nodded slowly, confused. "Of course. Please take care of yourselves." Agnes pushed the wheelchair away quickly, and the two disappeared into the busy market path. The woman watched them leave, frowning deeply. She turned back to Rebecca. "I'm telling you, those are the real owners of Golden Heights Empire. I've followed their story since the beginning. I could never mistake their faces." Rebecca hesitated. "Maybe you're wrong. People like that wouldn't be here struggling like this. Maybe they just look alike." The woman shook her head slowly. "Maybe, but something is not right. My heart is telling me the truth." Rebecca stared silently toward the market road where they vanished, a new curiosity burning in her eyes. Something about Agnes and Richard refused to leave her mind. As Agnes and Richard moved through the busy market street, the noise of traders and customers filled the air. Richard rubbed his forehead, still overwhelmed. "Mom, that was really close," he muttered. "I never imagined someone would recognize us here. My heart almost stopped." Agnes kept pushing the wheelchair, scanning the faces around them. "It shocked me too. I thought coming to this town meant we were completely hidden. We must be wiser from now on. One careless move and everything could scatter." Richard glanced back toward Rebecca's shop, his expression softening. "The only thing I'm praying for now is that Rebecca doesn't start thinking too deeply about what that woman said." Agnes shot him a curious look. "Why are you suddenly worried about what Rebecca thinks? Is there something I should know?" He hesitated, then sighed. "Mom, I won't lie. I've started having interest in her. The way she treated us, defended us, gave us water without knowing anything about us. It touched me. No girl ever acted that way when I was surrounded by wealth. They only cared about my money." Agnes paused, absorbing his words. "Richard, I understand. But we must focus. This mission is bigger than feelings. We came here to find a woman who loves you genuinely, not because she suspects anything. And that's why we must keep visiting her shop," Richard said softly. "If we disappear now, she might start connecting dots. But if we stay close, she'll see us as ordinary people struggling to survive." Agnes gave a small smile. "All right. But protect your heart, son." Richard nodded, eyes thoughtful. "I will try." They continued silently until they reached home. But meanwhile, one evening when Agnes had stepped out to buy a few things, leaving Richard alone with his thoughts. The silence in the small room almost felt heavy on his chest as he stared at the ceiling, lost in memories of a life that once shined brighter than gold. A sudden knock snapped him back. Richard quickly positioned himself properly in his wheelchair, wiping his face with his hand, and cleared his throat. "You can come in," he called. The door opened gently, and Hannah stepped inside, her smile warm enough to soften the air. "Good afternoon, Richard," she greeted softly. "I came to check if you'll need fruits today. I brought some fresh ones." "Oh, yes, please," he replied, trying not to sound too eager. "That's very thoughtful of you." Hannah placed the basket on the table with a gentle touch. "I selected the sweetest ones," she said, smiling. Richard paid her, and she turned to leave, but he hesitated before speaking again. "Hannah, would you mind helping me with a glass of water?" "Of course I don't mind," she answered immediately and walked to the kitchen. A moment later she returned, but as she handed the glass to him, it slipped from her fingers, and cold water splashed across Richard's chest. "Oh my God!" Hannah panicked, grabbing a towel. "I'm so sorry." She knelt in front of him, gently wiping the water from his clothes and skin. Her hands trembled, her voice shaky. "I didn't mean to. Please forgive me." Richard looked straight into her eyes, and for a brief moment, the world paused. A warmth spread through him, deeper than anything he expected. "It's okay," he said gently. "Really, it's fine." Their eyes locked, long enough to say things words could not. "Hannah," he whispered, "are you married?" She blinked in surprise. "No, not yet." Richard swallowed, nervous. "Then, may I have your number?" Her cheeks flushed slightly as she wrote it down and placed it in his hand. "Here, and again, I'm sorry about the water." She opened the basket again and added a few extra fruits. "Take these, no extra charge." "Thank you," Richard said softly. "Do you still need help with anything else?" she said, stepping back toward the door. Richard say no, and Hannah say, "I'll be expecting your call." The door closed slowly behind her. Richard watched through the window as she walked away. His heart beat louder than his thoughts. Something powerful and unexpected had just begun. Hannah returned home, her basket still full, a small smile playing on her lips. She walked straight into the living room where her parents were waiting. "Mom, Dad, I went to Richard's house today," she said, excitement barely contained. Her mother smiled warmly. "And how did it go, Hannah?" Hannah placed the basket down and laughed softly. "It went well. I delivered the fruits, helped a little around the house, and he even asked me for a glass of water. I think he's starting to notice me." Her father nodded, pride in his eyes. "Good. Remember to stay patient and calm. Help where you can, but never reveal too much. Timing is everything, and this is exactly why we planned it this way." Hannah's eyes sparkled with determination. "I understand. I'll do everything just as we agreed. I won't disappoint you." Her mother reached out and squeezed her hand. "We know you won't, Hannah. Remember, this isn't just about the fruit. It's about showing kindness, patience, and earning his heart." Her father added, "Do the little things well. Sweep, fetch water, tidy up. These small steps will bring you closer without revealing anything. And next time you go, don't make it only about selling fruits. Go to assist them. Tell them you'll come sometimes to help with housework. Sweeping, cleaning, washing clothes, cooking. That's how you'll earn their trust." Hannah nodded with calm determination. "I'll follow the plan carefully. Every step will count." Matthew exchanged a confident look with his wife, Linda, hope glowing in both of their faces. Linda smiled with excitement. "I can't wait to become the in-law of a millionaire. Our life will finally change." Matthew chuckled, and Hannah laughed softly with them. Ambition filled the room, dreams suddenly within reach. Everything was now set in motion. Soon destiny would answer. As time went on, Richard found himself falling in love with both Rebecca and Hannah. Hannah visited almost every day, helping with house chores, acting humble and caring. Rebecca never visited their home, not even once. She only spoke with Richard whenever he stepped outside, and those moments were filled with genuine emotion. Rebecca had truly fallen for him, even in his condition. But Richard's heart remained conflicted. Agnes advised him to settle with one lady, but he refused. "I want to test their character," he said. "The one with a true heart will stay." Weeks passed, and strange things began to surface. Richard and Agnes noticed Hannah sneaking outside to make secret phone calls. They quietly followed her and discovered the shocking truth. Hannah was the landlord's daughter, carefully acting this way because her father had known about Richard and Agnes's secret plan before they even moved in. That was why he had set up his daughter to get close to them. Even worse, Hannah had been taking their money, completely unaware that Richard and Agnes were quietly watching her every move. One afternoon, Rebecca decided to visit, carrying a small basket of fruits and household items she had carefully prepared for Richard and Agnes. She knocked on the door, and Richard hurried to wheel himself over and open it, trying to hide the flutter of excitement in his chest. But the moment Rebecca stepped inside, she froze. There, in the living room, was Hannah, neatly arranging some of their belongings. Her presence was calm, yet deliberate, and her eyes met Rebecca's. The basket in Rebecca's hands trembled slightly. Richard felt a chill of tension settle over the room. Rebecca, this is Hannah. She's helping us at home. She's part of the household, he explained cautiously, his voice tight. Agnes stepped forward, her expression gentle but firm. Rebecca, she's like family to us. Please don't misunderstand. But Rebecca's composure broke. Tears streamed down her face as she shouted, So, all this time, you've been hiding her from me? You've been in love with someone else while pretending. Don't ever come to my shop again, Richard. This is over between us. Richard stepped forward, his voice calm but urgent. Rebecca, please. Calm down, I can explain everything. She shook her head violently, tears falling faster. No, I don't want to hear it. With that, she spun around and ran, slamming the door behind her, leaving Richard and Agnes frozen in stunned silence. Richard and Agnes exchanged helpless glances, their minds racing to make sense of the chaos. Hannah, quietly observing, turned to Richard. Do you know her? How do you know her? She asked, her tone a mix of curiosity and concern. Hannah looked at Richard, her eyes sharp but calm. You're not straightforward, she said quietly, a hint of hurt in her voice. Despite everything I've done for you, all my sacrifices, you still decide to have someone else outside? She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. Then her expression softened, determination replacing hurt. But it's fine. That doesn't mean I'll end our relationship. I'll wait and see where your heart truly belongs. And I won't give up on what we have. But Richard could not let Rebecca go. Deep in his heart, he knew Rebecca was his true love. He quickly wheeled himself toward the street, desperate to catch up with her, hoping she might still be nearby. Rebecca, wait! He shouted. But before he could move further, Hannah rushed toward him, eyes blazing with fury. So you're running after her? So I'm meaningless to you? I don't mean anything? Tears filled Richard's eyes as he looked at her. Do you think I'm a fool? Do you think I don't know what's going on? You don't truly love me. You came into my life because you knew my secret. You and your father, he knows our plan, and you've been set up to deceive me. You've even stolen money from us, Hannah, yet we kept quiet. Agnes, sensing danger, rushed to them, her face pale, as Hannah's fury only grew. I don't care. You know everything now, and you still try to make me look like a house help and doing all this in vain? Hannah, stop! Richard pleaded. You're not going anywhere, Richard, she screamed, grabbing him. They struggled, shouting at each other, oblivious to the busy street around them. Suddenly, in the heat of the moment, Hannah pushed Richard hard, while he was in his wheelchair, right, into the path of an oncoming car. Richard was hit by the car and fell to the ground with a heavy thud. Hannah froze, panic flashing across her face. But instead of helping, she turned and fled. Agnes screamed, running to him. Kneeling beside Richard, she gently lifted him into her arms. Hold on, Richard! We're taking you to the hospital now! The chaos of the street, the shouting, the hurt. It all blurred as Agnes carried him away, the weight of what had just happened pressing down on them both. Meanwhile at the hospital, after some treatment, Richard finally sat up on the hospital bed, still sore but stable. Agnes stayed close, worry written all over her face. My son, how are you feeling? Are you okay now? She asked softly. Richard nodded, but tears ran down his face. Yes, I'm feeling better, but... Mom, we've lost both of them, haven't we? It's so hard to find someone who truly stays. Agnes's eyes filled with tears. I know, my son. I never expected this to happen. But we can't give up. We must keep going until you find the right person. Richard's shoulders slumped. I'm tired of all this, Mom. Rebecca. The one I thought was the right one. She's gone. I don't think she'll ever come back. Agnes held his hand tightly. Richard, don't lose hope yet. Sometimes what seems lost is only waiting for the right moment. You have to be patient, for yourself and for the person who truly deserves your heart. Richard took a deep breath, trying to hold on to his mother's words when the doctor entered, checking his vitals and giving him a reassuring smile. For a moment, there was silence, pain, hope, and the quiet determination that their journey was not over. But for Hannah, after the accident, scene that make her to flew, anger boiled inside Hannah, to go found Rebecca and warn her, to never see her with Richard. She stormed into the market, scanning until she saw Rebecca at her stall. You, stay away from Richard! Hannah shouted, her voice sharp. She grabbed Rebecca's arm. Rebecca jumped back. Hannah, let go! You don't understand. I understand perfectly. Hannah snapped. He's mine! Don't ever come near him again. If I see you with him, I'll deal with you. A few bystanders started murmuring. One vendor stepped forward. Hey, calm down! Don't fight here! Another man added, Yes, let's not cause trouble in the market. Hannah glared fiercely at Rebecca. I'm serious. Stay away from him or you'll regret it. Rebecca shook her head, steadying herself. I'm not trying to take him from you. Please don't make this worse than it has to be. Hannah scoffed, fury still flashing in her eyes. You've done enough already. Remember what I said. She turned sharply and stormed off, leaving whispers trailing behind her. Rebecca watched her go, hands trembling slightly, her heart pounding. The market continued its busy rhythm, but the tension lingered, and all eyes remained on her. She knew this wasn't over. At the hospital, the room was silent, filled only with the soft rhythm of the monitor. Agnes sat beside Richard, gently holding his hand, her eyes tired from sleepless nights. Suddenly the door opened slowly. Rebecca walked in, tears streaming down her face, breathing heavily as if she had run all the way there. Agnes turned, shocked. Rebecca? Rebecca stepped forward, her voice trembling. Without hesitation, she dropped to her knees beside Richard's bed. Richard, please forgive me, she cried. I'm sorry for everything that happened. When I heard about the accident, my whole world crashed. I felt like my heart stopped. I couldn't bear the thought of losing you. Her voice broke as tears splashed onto the bedsheet. Richard blinked, deeply moved. Rebecca, please stand up, don't do this. But she shook her head, refusing to rise. No, Richard, let me speak from my heart. I never wanted to hurt you. I'm begging for one more chance, please. Forgive me. Agnes exhaled softly, her voice weak but gentle. Rebecca, we are not angry with you. We understand. We're all going through storms we didn't see coming. She swallowed hard. The doctor just told us. Richard has internal bleeding. This hospital doesn't have the equipment to treat it. Rebecca froze, eyes widening. Internal bleeding? Oh God. What are we going to do? We need to transfer him to the city hospital, Agnes explained quietly. The ambulance is ready, but we need a lot of money. They plan to move him in the next 3 days. Rebecca wiped her face quickly, determination burning through the tears. I will help. I will raise money, any amount I can get. Even if we borrow, I'll support the treatment. Richard must survive. When exactly are they taking him? In 3 days, Agnes repeated. Rebecca finally stood, her legs trembling. Then I need to start now. I'll talk to my family and ask them to watch over my shop until he's well. Nothing is more important right now. Agnes reached and squeezed her hand. Thank you, Rebecca. Your heart is pure. Rebecca nodded, smiling through tears. I'll be back soon. She walked out, full of determination and courage. When the door closed, Richard couldn't hold back a tear. Mom, I'm shocked. I didn't expect her to return like this. Maybe this is true love. Agnes nodded slowly. Now you understand who truly cares. Richard looked up with resolve. Mom, it's time she knows the secret. Agnes inhaled deeply, eyes fixed on the door. Yes, son. The time has finally come. The room fell silent. Richard and Agnes sat side by side, hands tightly clasped, eyes fixed on the doorway where Rebecca had exited. A quiet hope filled the air. Change was coming. The morning of the transfer arrived. The air around the hospital felt heavy with urgency and silent prayers. Agnes and Rebecca walked beside Richard, carefully supporting him as the nurse wheeled him toward the taxi waiting outside. Rebecca gently wiped sweat from his forehead. You'll be fine, she whispered, steadying his arm while Agnes helped him settle inside the vehicle. Agnes entered from the other side and closed the door softly. The driver started the engine, and slowly the car pulled away from the hospital, leaving uncertainty behind them. Hours passed on the long drive to the city. Quiet, tense, hopeful. Richard leaned his head back, breathing slowly, while Agnes and Rebecca exchanged worried glances. After a long silence, Agnes spoke to the driver. Please, turn right at the next junction. We need to stop somewhere first. She looked at Rebecca reassuringly. We have family here in the city. They might be able to help us with Richard's treatment. Rebecca nodded, grateful for any support. Soon the taxi stopped in front of a massive mansion. Tall white walls, polished tiles and gates wide open as though expecting them. Rebecca stared in shock. A mansion? She wondered if they had made a mistake. The driver parked inside the compound, and the gates closed gently behind them. Agnes stepped out first, adjusting her wrapper. She barely took 2 steps before a young, elegant lady rushed out from the mansion's entrance. She ran toward Agnes with bright excitement and threw her arms around her. Mom! She exclaimed, smiling wide. Thank you for everything you've done. That's why I love you so much. You made it work beautifully. Is she in the car? Agnes smiled softly. Yes, she is. Before Rebecca could process what was happening, she heard the click of a door behind her. She turned abruptly, and her eyes widened. Richard was standing, not holding anything, not leaning, standing straight on his own 2 feet. Rebecca's voice trembled as she stared at Richard in shock. "Richard, what is happening? Please, talk to me. I'm confused. I don't understand any of this." Richard stepped closer, gently taking her shaking hands. "Rebecca, calm down," he said softly. "Nothing happened to me. I'm fine. I was never sick, and I was never crippled." Rebecca blinked, eyes widening. What do you mean?" Richard let out a slow breath. "This is my house. And this," he gestured toward the young lady beside Agnes, "is my sister Juliet." Juliet smiled warmly and nodded. Richard continued, voice full of emotion. "Rebecca, I'm a millionaire. I've always been, but I've had a painful past. Women only came for my money, never for real love. They pretended to care until they found what they wanted. So I decided to hide the truth and test people to find someone whose heart is pure." Rebecca's tears spilled instantly. Her voice cracked as she stepped back slightly. "So, you were never crippled? You were never poor? You pretended. All this time?" Richard nodded and gently pulled her into his arms. "Yes, I pretended. But not to hurt you. I wanted to know if you loved me for me, not for what I have. And Rebecca, you proved it. You stood by me, you cried for me, you were ready to fight for me, and even raise money to save my life. You are the true love I prayed for." Rebecca broke down completely, crying against his chest as he held her firmly. "So I was worthy after all," she whispered. Juliet stepped forward, touching Rebecca's shoulder gently. "Please don't cry. You are welcome into our family. You passed the test no one else ever did." Rebecca looked at Agnes through her tears. Agnes smiled proudly, her eyes shining. "I'm glad I made this mission possible for my son," she said softly. "Now let's go inside. This is just the beginning of something beautiful." Richard held Rebecca's hand tightly as they walked toward the mansion entrance, Juliet beside them and Agnes following with a relieved smile. The mission was successful. Love won. Together, they stepped into a new beginning filled with hope and a future rewritten. A year later, Richard and Rebecca got married in a beautiful ceremony filled with joy and blessings. Only a few months after their wedding, they welcomed a baby boy, bringing even more happiness into their home. Their lives continued to flourish in peace, love, and success. True love is proven through actions, not appearance or wealth. Patience, honesty, and genuine care always lead to a joyful and lasting victory. Thank you so much for watching this story. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe for more amazing stories. See you in the next story.